Okay, part 4, we're going to look at what we mean by linear functions, all right? And we've already talked about that. Now, the function notation we use is f of x. So if that's new to you, when you see this, this is actually read as f, a function of x. X is the variable in the domain, like that. So a function is giving you a y value. So this is a y value. Okay, so a linear function has this form, mx plus b. You've learned that before. So if you've got f of x equals mx plus b, okay, what did these things remember? What is the m? Okay, that's the slope. That's how steep the line is. What's the b? Okay, that's the y-intercept. All right. Okay, so good question here. Linear functions have got a couple of ways. They can slant like this. They could slant downwards. They could be horizontal, vertical. But would a vertical line be a function? Okay, the answer is no, because it would fail the vertical line test. Okay, and if you just think about this, so if you had a graph of a line that's already vertical, here's an example. You might have like a point 3, 3. You might have a point 3, negative 3. Okay, you might have these points, and here's another point. That would be the point 3, 0. So the idea would be the same input gives you more than one output. So it fails the vertical line test when you do that then. Okay? All right, now if we go to this next page, we're just going to kind of talk through whether these things are linear functions or not. Okay, so what we do is we look for anything that looks like this. Okay, so first of all, you have to have just an x in it. Somewhere you got to have an x, but it has to look exactly like this. All right, things can be in a different order and so forth. Okay, so if you look at this one, all right, it has an x, it has a b, that's the b value there, and then it has the slope of negative 3, so that's a yes. Okay, I'll give you several examples. Linear functions are only going to look a certain number of ways. You could have like something like negative 3x plus 4. That's linear. You could have 4. Okay, you can be missing the x if you want to. You could also be missing the b. Okay, so you could have that. Or you could even just have an x like that. All right, so the idea on that is you got to have, they kind of look like this, mx plus b. You don't have to have the x and you don't have to have the b. All right, so you can leave those off. And the reason is if you had equals x, that would be really x plus 0. Negative 2x could be thought of as negative 2x plus 0. And even the constant 4 could be thought of as 0 times x. So it's got to look like that. All right, so let's look. All right, so what I want you all to do is just pause the video and yes or no on each one of these. Okay, so here's what you should have. This one is no. You can't have x to the second. It's got to be just an x. X to the first, really. This is also no. You can't have the x in a denominator because, again, it's got to look like that. Exactly like that. This one, yes. Okay, that's okay. Because this one really is h of x equals 0x plus 12. So it's got the m, it's got the b. It's got the mx plus b form. This one's a no, because it has a square root. It's not linear. If you graphed that, it isn't a line. And one thing I want to point out on this, too, I want to do a couple things on my graphing calculator. If I was to put in 2 minus 3x, and just do this in a standard window, well, you get a line. Okay, that's a linear function. If you put the second one in, you would go x to the second plus 4. If you graph that, that's not a line. Okay, that's a parabola. If you put the next one in, 2 divided by x, okay, it's not a line. If you put the next one in, if you go like this, 12. Now I'll have to change the window so you can see this. I would have to make my y go up bigger, so I'm going to make that go to 20. Okay, that's a line. That's a function. It passes the vertical line test. you put the next one in, you would go second x squared to get the square root to come out. I've got to clear that first, so it would go like this. Get out of the radical and then put in the plus 4. Let me show you on this. That's not a line, that's a curve. If I go zoom 6, it's a little bit easier to see. Okay. All right, and this one's no also. You can't have an absolute value on here. I'm going to show you how to put this in your graphing calculator. So what you actually do is you get it blinking on Y, then you go to Math, and then you go to Number, ABS, press Enter, and then you put your X in. So that would go like that, and you get out of that minus 6, press Graph. That isn't a line, that's kind of a V shape like that. So I mean, the graph of a linear function is a straight line. Right, so that's another way to look at that, but you want to be able to recognize when you have a linear function, right? Okay, all right, that will wrap us up on that.